Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome back to another episode. So it's been a minute. I don't know when, or depending on when I upload this, if I upload another episode before this or what. I've been on a mini hiatus for a fat minute now. It's been months. Honestly, y'all, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's been so long since I've picked up a mic. I have like these weekends where I'll be like, I just love rambling. I'll just love to have like record podcast episodes and I'll record a lot and then I'll just release them like throughout honestly the year like throughout the months because I only release like one or two a month, so I'll release them. And honestly y'all, recently I've been dry. I have nothing. I also feel like the other thing for me right now, like to just be very direct, I just don't feel like talking about anything right now is of much significance if it isn't related to Palestine. And so I just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to like belittle our problems, but I'm just saying generally, like when I see what's going on there, I'm like, like I don't understand. Like, I feel like I've had a really hard time trying to find something that can help inspire someone who is your common everyday individual, but also people. And I think honestly, I think everyone in some way, shape, or form is kind of, waking up or impacted by the genocide in Palestine. So I feel like that in some way, I wanted to use those two things and kind of create a series where it isn't always just, here are things that you should do. I wanted to share something that could talk to your heart in a way where it kind of sparks a little something in you, despite whatever hard thing you're going through, despite who you might have lost, despite all the hardships that are unfolding right now. But I just feel like I couldn't figure out what I wanted that to be because I didn't want to sit here and like give y'all a basic one, two, three, here's how to overcome this type series. Because with the genocide, with everything going on right now, like I want to do something that is going to help all people alike, but also help us narrow in and gain some wisdom and gain a little bit of comfort, through such a hard time. So for months, I feel like I was thinking, and I listened to a lot of lectures by other scholars as well, some in Urdu, some in English, right? And I'm listening to like these other lectures, and like they're nice, but like again, like nothing I feel like is hitting that spot. Like I feel like sometimes it might hit the spot for, the common everyday person who might be going through a hardship, but what about the people that are literally going through a genocide? And I'm not saying that the series or what I'm about to share right now is miraculous and it's going to cure and help every single person who's going through something, but I feel like it definitely kind of helped me get a little bit more context in their struggles and our struggles and in just life a little bit more. I don't know if I'm making any sense or if I'm necessarily conveying myself correctly. I guess you can say I just wanted something more than just the surface. I wanted something more to think about as a human being. And, like I feel like I searched for months on that. Like I have a bunch of episodes. If you scroll down, I have so many different episodes. I have so many mini messages. I have so many different things on so many different topics on how to do this, how to do that, how to improve this. But I feel like for a long time, I have been looking for like that spark in your iman, in your heart, like something that just kind of revives you and makes you feel better, and kind of just helps you get more perspective with everything going on in the world and with everything just going on in your own life or wherever it might be. So this takes me back to almost, I think, January, right? I remember, I don't even know if it was January. I think it might have been a little bit before that, sometime between October and January. I remember I started binge watching like this series on Kitab al-Hikam. And if I think a lot of y'all might have heard that book before, Book of Wisdom. So a lot of people, there's a lot of series on it on YouTube. And any single wisdom, any single thing that I ever heard from that book was something that just like tingled my heart. And it was something that I used to think on the back of my mind. And it was something that I used to think about a lot of different situations, not just in my own life, but outside of my life, outside of what's going on, in just my bubble of life or your bubble of life, but what's going on in the world. And I found all of them really interesting. So fast forward to a little while ago, I ordered the book, and when I placed the order for this book, I tell you, I was hype. I was like, bro, I will walk and get this myself. Just mailman, just come halfway, I'll meet you the other halfway. Like, I was so excited for this book. And when the package came, I was at a really like particularly like just like low fatigued point in my iman, and like just not, I wasn't really making sense of my own life, the world, like just, you know, that phase of your life where you're just like, man, what's going on, that type of thing. And so when I got the book, I was like, when I tell you, when I initially ordered it, I was like, oh my god, when it comes, like I'm reading it that second, I just put it aside on my nightstand. I was like, I just don't like, I feel burnt. I just feel like I want something that helps that little feeling come back, that feeling of making more sense of what's happening. So I didn't read the book till the night later, and I read it, and oh my god, it was it. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to cure everything, or this is going to make the situation that's happening in the world or comfort maybe even your own problems so drastically that you're going to be healed and better. But I will say that this book, in some of my hardest times and a lot of my lowest times, and in times when I did not have the energy to do dawah, to do anything, nor the time, so physically fatigued and burned out with life and personal things, family stuff, like this was the book that has brought me back today, right now on the mic. Otherwise, I promise you, it has been so long. I have not been wanting to do a podcast. And I think it's just because of that same reason of just like that block of like what to talk about, you know, that I feel like can actually be surpassing the surface. So this book obviously was a blessing in disguise. It brought me back, and as I started reading this book, I realized every single thing in here has so many different perspectives and so many different ways that we can think about it in our own life, but also with what's going on in the world. So I was like, oh my god, I should talk about it on my podcast. So welcome. That's what we're doing today. I don't know how many of these episodes I'm going to make, but I'll definitely try to sprinkle it in and share them every now and then. So inshallah, that's my really rambly intro. Sorry guys. Just to kind of explain, I always like to explain why or what I'm talking about. So let's get started. So I'm actually going to start with chapter 4. Every chapter kind of has like a main theme that they're kind of talking about, but every single one is kind of a standalone. So this one says, this whole chapter's main focus is focusing on Allah. And this one says, appeal to none but him to dispose of a problem that he himself has brought about. For how can someone else remove what he has imposed? How can one who is unable to meet one's own needs do it for someone else? The commentary underneath says, only Allah can relieve you of a pressing need which He Himself has created. If Allah is the source of all visitations and disasters, how can you ask for help someone else who is unable to solve his own problems? I wanted to start with this one because I feel like it is something that is advice that you might hear common, right? A lot of times people might hear the advice that you should only, ask Allah for help. And of course, I always say, and I think even in general, there's nothing wrong with seeking good counsel and good advice from people. But I will tell you for a fact that sometimes in life, problems will come, disasters will come, things will come to you around the world, wherever it might be. Things will happen where, let's say start off with your own personal life, where things will happen where even the people that you always go to for advice, that are always there for you at the back of your hand, cannot do much for you, okay? And in that moment, it is really important to not be frustrated or mad at them. You see, the thing is, in life, the purpose of us getting tested is always the same. It is always to remind us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make us come back to Him, whatever it might be. But the test is different. The face of the test is different. The purpose of the test is the same. And when you understand that in life, it makes things a little bit easier because you know ultimately what your reaction and what should come out of the test. It's kind of like a guide, and it makes life a lot easier because then you know what's expected out of you. You know what should come out of whatever hardship you're going through, right? Ultimately, the purpose of all tests is to make you come back and become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you do go through something, you always have to have that factor within yourself and that question within yourself of what is Allah trying to teach me on how I should be closer to Him through this test, right? So the purpose of the test is the same. The face of the test is different. And since the face is always different, that is not something that I can control. That is not something you can control. And that's not something that people around you can control. So at times, yes, you might feel frustrated with the people around you that they don't know what to say. And I think that it's really rare to find someone who knows exactly what to say in every single situation because not everybody has been through everything. Rarely, I think it's basically unlikely. I have had tests that you have never been through. You have had tests that I've never been through. Maybe the words that you say to comfort me at times are just not comforting me. Maybe that's not what I need to hear, and maybe it's likewise. And that's exactly why in those moments, don't feel frustrated with the people around you. Us human beings by design, we do not have the answers to everything. We do not have the words for everything. We do not have the keys to everything. And some things in life do come to make you turn to Allah and make you just constantly focus on Him being the one that can resolve your issue. Now, ultimately, I will tell you, let's look at what's happening in the world right now with the genocide. Ultimately, us as human beings, we're doing all that we can to stop it, right? We're doing everything in our power. But ultimate control of everyone and everything is in Allah's hands, it's not in our hands. And so that's why we always also say that pair up with your action, that dua and that worship, waking up in the last third of the night to pray for your brothers and sisters that are going through this oppression, because both of these things go hand in hand, right? Action, prayer, calling out to Allah, and asking Him to make this problem, to make these situations easy. And I always try my best to remind myself of this, especially because I have found myself in life in a lot of different hardships that no one can offer me even comfort for. That even when I did talk to as many people as I knew to offer me comfort, even at times I talked to scholars and they said, I don't know what to tell you. I really wish I could give you something, but I just can't. I have had some situations in my life that was the response that I got. And these were people that were always there for me, always able to give me advice and guide me, give me beneficial, advice in different circumstances. In some situations they can't give me. But the same thing is that this problem, didn't exist until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it to exist. And that same way, my solution probably doesn't exist yet until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it to exist. Maybe, you're running around in circles like crazy trying to find a solution for something that Allah has a solution written for. The solution will decreed and it'll come down at its right time. But right now might not be that time. But you have to remember that in that time period of waiting, who you are asking this ease from. Which leads me to the next hikmah that I want to share that says, if His good attributes are not sufficient for you to improve your impression of Him, let the way He treats you improve your impression of Him, for He has habited you to good things only and conferred on you nothing but His bounties. And the commentary says Allah's nature and attributes are good enough to improve one's impression of Him. But if you are unable to form your opinion and impression of Allah by seeing His attributes only, the way He treats you should make you reflect on His bounties and favors. Allah has bestowed only good things on His servants. The amount of comfort this gave my heart when I first read it was insane. But that is the exact same thing I'm going to tell you. This duration of when you are questioning when your ease will come or when your promises will be fulfilled, of when, things will happen the way that you expect them to happen, or even when you can take a breath and it will not be so heavy on your chest. Just that one breath where it feels lighter, where you feel lighter, right? Just that one moment of that peace. You're wondering when. Do not let this waiting time make you forget who Allah is. I've had trials in my life that, I feel like before a trial, you always keep the opinion that, no matter what, nothing's going to make me stray away from Allah. Nothing, no matter what's going to make me have a hard time talking to Allah. But then I've had trials in my life where I wasn't necessarily straying away from Allah. I just didn't know what to ask Him for. I didn't know what to say. And so in those moments, I always try my best to still make dua because Allah loves to hear from you. Allah loves those that ask of Him. So I always just tell Allah to do what's best because a lot of times we physically are so fatigued from life that we do not understand where to go next, what to even ask for, what do I even say? And so in that moment, let your love of Allah, let the love that you have for Him, the love that you know that He loves to hear from you and you love to talk to a Lord that loves to hear from you, be of that. I at least want you to know that I want what you want for me. And in my worst moments, one of the du'as that I always make and I always say to Allah is that, Allah, I'm not mad. I'm not upset with what you've decreed for me. Like qadr is qadr. You've had this for me and I'm okay with what you have written for me. I know that you are merciful and I know that you love to love. So make me of those that you show your mercy and love to. Make me of those that will always have a good opinion of you. I don't really know what I want right now. All I want is what you want. And I can promise you that in the moments when my heart is so heavy and I'm thinking about all these other 100 problems, when I just say that to Allah, it's kind of like just something that came in my heart a couple of years ago. And it's something that I say to Allah often when I don't know what to say. I promise you my heart always feels lighter. Because out of who Allah is, I always want to talk to Allah. I want to talk to Allah, not just, of course, because He is God, but in general, knowing that He's been good to me even when I wasn't good to myself. And that's something that I think you should remember yourself as well. You probably have a lot of sins or times that you did things that were an injustice against your own self. They are an injustice against the reason why you were made. But even then, Allah chose to love you, even when you made the decisions that didn't portray you loving yourself, that didn't portray you loving Allah. So let that at least be a reminder in hard times, that while you might feel frustrated that you're not finding a resolution from people around you, that maybe this hardship is so heavy you don't know where to go, or maybe you're just so caught up in your thoughts with everything that's going on in the world right now, or maybe you just feel so heavy that all you long for before even ease is a sigh of relief that doesn't feel like it's clinging onto your throat and just dropping your rib cage. Please remember that in every single minute, every single second that you wake up, it's hard. I know, but if this problem was written, your solution is written too. And really, ultimately, no one can bring that solution besides Allah. And I know, sometimes even I have those thoughts where, when people say like, oh, you go through a trial, you go through something, oh, and you get rewarded. And I've actually heard people say this, and, I'm not gonna act holier than thou. Sometimes I had these thoughts as well. I was like, yeah, but like there's so many different ways to get rewarded. Why this way? This way is hard. Like, I'd much rather do a bunch of good deeds and get the same reward than this. And I remember I read a hikmah on this one as well. And it went among the lines talking about how you can think that you're going to do a certain deed and how, you believe that that is what will get you to Jannah, but we don't know which one of our deeds are accepted or not. You don't know which one of yours has complete sincerity and, like completeness in it. And there's another hikmah that I found that really went nice with that one. It says, actions are but motionless forms and their spirit and sustenance lies in the presence of a committed heart within. I remember the first few times when I read this, it hit my heart and I was like, oh my God. And I remember when I was young, again, I was really naive back then. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for thinking like this, but I used to have these thoughts where, people were like, oh, but when you go through a trial, it elevates your ranks and you're getting so many good deeds and hasanat, you're being rewarded. I used to sometimes think to myself, I'm like, yeah, but I could also pray and I can also fast and I can do a bunch of other good deeds and maybe get the same amount. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. Do you see what the problem is with that statement? It's all centralized on yourself. Thinking that you are the one who gets yourself up to do a good action. First of all, where is the guarantee that you will even be able to do that? Second, it's all centralized on yourself, thinking that you are the one that does good deeds when it is only Allah that allows you to do those good deeds, allows you to get up, allows you that birth to do them. It's only Allah that allows it. And the third thing I want to say is, what's the guarantee? What is the guarantee that the actions that you believe that are easier for you to do, that will elevate your ranks, as compared to the actions and the tests and the trials that Allah has written for you, that Allah has decreed for you to go through to elevate your ranks? Really, what's the guarantee that your sujuds are not you just putting your head on the ground, that they're not just soulless actions? What's the guarantee that your fasting has the sincerity and ikhlas in it? What's the guarantee? We don't know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, the hadith where it talks about how Allah loves to test people and tests are like a sign of love. And we always hear that as well. And I think that in some way, we've all found comfort in that. But as I'm growing older, I think that sometimes, yes, Allah does make us go through things to elevate our ranks in ways that we probably could have never obtained ourselves in a lifetime. And sure, in tests like this, you might have moments where you have so much resent, you feel horrible, you feel fatigued. You might even think at times that you're growing farther from Allah because you think that I don't even know what to say to Him anymore. But what if it's that your sabr and your love to continue to talk to Him, even when you don't know what to say, is what is elevating your ranks? There's no guarantee on what will be that one thing that tips your scale on the day of judgment and gets you to Jannah. We just don't know. And that's why it's important in this time of your hardship and with just everything going on, that you remember you know who Allah is, that He has always conferred favors upon us. And even now, Him depriving us of something, or even Him and you personally maybe having a little bit of a difficult relationship, that is still better than no relationship. Difficult relationship, a hard time, having these tests that you might question, this is still better than not knowing Allah, because not knowing Allah is really the ultimate loss in this life. Anyway, that was my little ramble jamble on this one. I talked about a bunch of little hikmas in this one. I actually only intended to talk about one, but I talked about a bunch because, as I was talking about them, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of this one. So it's a great book. I 10 out of 10 recommend you guys to get this one. I'm not done reading this book, but I'm going to be continuing to share these as we go through the book together, inshallah. Hope this episode was beneficial. Take care of yourself. Have a great rest of your day. Assalamu alaikum.